Well, hello guys, welcome. Thanks for joining us at nCourage Leaders live webcast we got. Today we have Carlos Whittaker with us. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm by the beach, and the ocean air is blowing, and I'm not in Nashville. I'm telling you, things are great right now.
That's awesome. You came here to the church here in Ventura.
I did.
nCourage Church, and you spoke this morning. It was awesung.
I did. We had a blast.
Yeah, if you guys missed it, you missed it. I'm sorry, but
you missed it, guys. Completely sorry about it. Yeah, no, I had a good time. It was great. I'd hung out in Bakersfield with your family in Bakersfield there, hanging out with the family here, and it just was really cool. Especially again, seeing a church that's been planted in this community, and then just seeing the life and the life change that's already happening. That right there is addicting. So it was really
you know
cool.
what? I was telling you, Carlos spoke at our church in Bakersfield, and then he spoke here. And I'm telling you, my Facebook lit up. They love this guy.
That's
so
awesome.
I know you got your fans out there tonight, and I just got to meet Carlos because
Yeah.
I'm always on vacation when my speakers come. And
I know.
I feel like I've known this guy for 30 years.
Yes.
Just met him. So
Just so you guys know, sometimes you don't even know who we are. This is Pastor Ron Vietti with Valley Bible Fellowship in Bakersfield and nCourage Church in Ventura and Valley Bible in Las Vegas. And he's also my dad, so I kind of dragged him into this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we got to do this live thing. It's all the new rage.
Yes,
it's amazing.
absolutely.
And so Carlos came out here to hang out with us. So we're just going to talk. We're going to chat. We're going to hang out.
Let's do it, man.
And we're just going to kind of get into it. So did you want to start off with any questions for
yeah,
Carlos?
I have a whole
We
bunch of questions.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I just really get off on these interviews because we can ask questions that stuff that we don't get to talk about in the pulpit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm going to start out with I wrote a bunch of questions out. I drove over here today.
Yeah.
But what do you like best, Carlos?
Okay.
Singing, preaching, or creating?
Oh man. Well, right now, okay, I'm going to give you a couple different answers.
Okay.
The current version of Carlos really loves preaching. I think because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Okay, so I'm always creating things. I'm always starting new ventures. I led worship full time for about 12, 13 years. And I just got to a place in my life where, when you do something over and over, unless you start changing things up, you get really callous towards it. And I got to a season in my life where I began to feel a little bit of callousness in my heart when I was leading worship. Almost a little manipulative, not on purpose, but just thinking, you know what, God, like, is there going to be room and a shift in my spirit? And so, sure enough, I'm a year and a half into this, maybe a year into this preaching thing. Oh my gosh, like I can't stop doing it. Like I absolutely love it. I love standing behind the pulpit. I love preaching the Word of God because, the Word of God is what has completely, turned my life inside out and upside down in different phases of my ministry. And so I would say the last phase has been amazing, all about preaching right now. I do love to create still, so I'm still creating every day. We do a YouTube vlog on YouTube, my family does, like an 8-minute vlog.
Where can people find you online?
Yeah, all over the place, right? So like right now, my favorite spaces to hang out online are Instagram, which is at Loswhit, Loswhit.
Right.
Snapchat, which is different. It's Whittaker, Whittakerew.
Okay.
And then YouTube, you can find, it's really kind of cool, like an 8-minute update story on my family's life from that day. Every day, I spend 3 hours
You're
editing
kind of a
this
YouTube
thing.
star. Right?
There's been some YouTube things that have happened.
What was the big? I know, but what happened? Just tell us the story.
Okay,
real quick, 'cause
so
there's a lot of people who don't know.
A lot of people don't know. So we were living in Atlanta at the time, and we're driving to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for a Braves game. And my kids are in the backseat of the car singing that Beyonce song, all the single ladies. And so I'm thinking, oh, it's kind of cute. So I pull out my phone, I start recording him, and I get done. And I was about to put it on TwitVid. Now back then, TwitVid was the way you would upload videos to Twitter. It was the only way. But I remember my wife going, you know what? That was kind of funny. Why don't you wait and put it on YouTube? Now, again, at this point, YouTube was still pretty new. So I said, okay, maybe it was, because what ended up happening was I told my son he wasn't a single lady when he was singing the song. Of course, he melts down, he starts crying. And
how can people find that video if they want to watch it? Because you have to.
If you search "Single Ladies Devastation" on YouTube, you'll find it.
Single Ladies
Devastation. Over 7 million views now. The next morning, I wake up and my phone is blowing up, and it's calls from New York, LA, all over the country, and it's all these producers wanting to know if they could interview the horrible father that made his son cry. And so I was like, yeah.
So is that trippy? I mean, like, is that
it was
crazy?
I'm telling you what, it was crazy. There were news crews I mean, everything but helicopters coming to our home. And oh no, this is the even funnier part of it. We were actually living with some friends in between homes at the time. We'd moved out. We were about to move to Nashville. And so we were living like in a friend's basement at the time. So we had to borrow a friend's living room to act as if it was our own so that we could sit around like a family. And so like when you see all the news interviews, it's not even our own home. It's
the other families over the side just like.
They were in the corner watching. And so we were, again, on the Today Show, Good Morning America.
Awesome.
And it went on for weeks. We ended up winning a People's Choice Award for it.
Well, I mean, we live in a crazy world right now where literally you could just, you shot that on your phone, right?
Shot it on my phone.
It was, you're literally driving while you're,
yes. I was not looking at my phone. I was looking at the road. FYI, everybody, before you start tweeting in those comments. And
that was before it was a thing.
Yeah. Oh no, it was a thing. I got hammered online.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. I got pretty killed. But ended up being it was all for good because I got to talk about adoption.
Yeah.
Got to talk about the Lord, and got invited into a bunch of secular environments where they were asking me what life was about.
How many Christians, would think, I shot a funny video on my phone. This could be an opportunity to reach the world. Like, would you even think? You probably didn't even think that. I mean, really.
No, at the time, no. But now I'm realizing that the traditional avenues and venues of delivering the gospel are changing, and we have to, kind of like you guys are doing right now. Like we're online with people watching. And this is a great way for somebody to learn more about Jesus. Now, there's no pulpit in front of us. There's no, I'm not singing a Chris Tomlin song with an acoustic 810 Taylor around my neck. But this is just as effective of a tool. And so, let's start thinking about what are some other tools and avenues that we can do that.
I mean, right now we're at church, right?
Yeah.
But what's cool is we can interact too. So, and this reminds me, I always forget to do this, but if you guys have any questions for Carlos, we want you to interact. We want you to ask the questions right now. So if you have any questions, the hashtag on Twitter, jump on Twitter. If you don't have an account, just start one, whatever you gotta do. But the hashtag is NCLive. So if you guys have any questions, we're gonna try to get to those at the end.
That'd be great.
But I don't want to get off base with that. The whole purpose in that is just to let people know that you guys are part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're just talking here. We really have no plan. That's what I love about this.
Yeah, no plan.
Yeah, but I have to ask you a question because this is a biggie for me. How did you come to know the Lord?
Oh man, I tell you what, I grew up in a preacher's home.
Okay.
My dad was the senior pastor of Primera Iglesia Bautista en Pico Rivera, First Bilingual Baptist Church. So I grew up there. Now, when I say bilingual, he would literally preach his sermons in English and in Spanish at the same time, which meant his sermons, Dios es el mismo en inglés y español. God is the same in English and in Spanish. So everyone thought that was amazing, and it actually really is, that the way that his mind could do that. But for me, growing up, his sermons were just twice as long. Like he was saying the same thing back and forth, and so I grew up in the church, promised myself that I would never, ever become a pastor. It was like, God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what my dad does. I want to do something else. And of course, God always has a way of moving us. And so, growing up in the church, still distanced myself from that. Was a rebellious preacher's kid. And I was at a Christian college convention that I got invited to in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And this old man, when I say old man, I'm talking 80, was the speaker for a college retreat. And I remember thinking, whose idea was this? And he walks on stage, and his name was Leroy Imes, and he had a book, a Bible about that thick, and he drops it on the thing. And I remember looking like, okay, well, I'm clocking out. There's nothing this guy has to do with me. And I just remember him looking out and says, so many of you are 18 inches away from heaven and hell. Your mind and your heart are 18 inches apart. And you know it all here, but you haven't moved it down there.
Right.
And that's how close and far you are away from eternity with Christ. And I just remember, it was one of those breath-sucking experiences. I couldn't breathe, and I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
And I hung on to every word that man said for the next 3 days. And at the end of that, I gave my life to the Lord.
Who would think an 80-some-year-old guy is going to get a really cool young guy like this? Yeah. That's God.
Well, it's God, and it just shows that, again, generations. It's if you're 80 and you're watching this, if you're 20, if you're watching this, we are all brothers and sisters in Christ, and God is going to be able to use every generation to reach the next.
There's a positive really cool. and a negative to the world we're living in right now with all the social media and all this stuff. I think the negative, and you chime in, you guys both chime in, but I think the negative side of it is that we're losing the human side
Sure.
of everything a little bit. I feel like kids, you're doing it right, Carlos, because you're just being yourself and you're just putting stuff out. Dad, you do the same thing. You're just being yourself. You're putting stuff out. But there's a lot of kids trying to be somebody else, you know, and just say, hey, this is who I am. And I feel like we're losing just the humanity. I don't know. What do you think about that?
We're losing. It's hard to be authentic. So I tell my kids this all the time as they're seeing, you know, their celebrity friend or their friends or celebrities on Twitter and Instagram, and they are only showing you what they want to show you. So therefore, we are painting a picture every single day of what we want the world to think we look like. So if we start believing that is truth in everything that we're seeing online, then now we're living in a fairy tale. This is such a small representation of who I am. I can make myself look as good or as bad as I want to, right? So I talked about this morning, every inch you go up with your selfie, you lose 5 pounds. So people are taking pictures like this now, and then you see them in real life, and you're
that's why the selfie stick is.
Yeah, that's why the selfie stick.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
Oh yeah. So like as people are going out, and so like nothing's real anymore. So we have to. I was having lunch with my dad earlier tonight. He drove down. He was preaching this morning in.
Is he in California?
Yeah, he's in California.
Nice.
Yeah, so my dad's the director of the California Southern Baptist Convention.
Oh, okay.
He lives in Fresno, and he was down preaching at a Baptist church in Riverside, California this morning, and I was here. So we met up and talked about our sermons together. But he was talking about how we're losing that touch. We're losing the hand to hand, you know, and the more that these 6 inches of LCD. You know, our kids are growing up seeing Apple logos in front of our eyes instead of our own eyes, and that's where the danger starts to fall.
So would that answer this question here? Because I had written a question out. Because in your bio, Sandals Church, it said that people aren't real with themselves. So would that be the same idea, or is that different?
Absolutely. What's great about that is, you know, we planted Sandals Church. I got there really soon after they planted it. I want to say this was 1997, and so this is before social media. So the vision was to be real with yourself, others, and God. So this isn't a new thing, right? So this isn't like selfies in the 1800s were still selfies. They just looked and it was just different. People still got their affirmation by it. So, you know, a desire for people to be real. I feel like when people are real with themselves, others, and God, that is when people will be the fullest in Christ. When you're truly authentic, you can tell when you follow somebody on social media when they are desperate for attention. Right? You can tell. You can see a friend's spouse, or you can see a family member of yours, and you can see them without them screaming it. Right? And so, as inauthentic as people can be, we can really quickly move past that and see it on social media.
The saddest thing is I think that the people that have, there's a lot of people that have something good to say, and they're afraid to say it because you know they think it's not going to be cool or whatever. But I think we need more of that honesty.
You know, like it's okay to stutter and mess up, and you know, I think that's why people have been kind of attracted to the movement I've created on social media, is because I admit my failures, and you know, and when
that's huge, right?
It really is.
Human
people are desperate.
That's what you've done your whole life.
I've done my sermons on my failures.
You really have.
I blew it, and I'll come in, and the Lord speaks to me so much of my failures. That's my sermon for the day.
That's so good.
I spoke for a while at the church I was pastoring for a little bit, and the more honest and real and raw I was, I thought people were going to hate this.
Yeah.
But they loved it. They're like,
Absolutely.
oh man, this is...
They flock to it.
Like, okay, well...
Well, I wrote down something else too, and it also
we're getting
described...
a lot of action here too, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Well, hey.
But
last thing, it described you as a thinker.
Yeah.
Now, I think, in my opinion, that people in the church go to one of two extremes. They're either not thinking or overthinking the kingdom.
Absolutely.
And so, what are some things that need to be rethought through in the church today, according to you? Because I want to hear that.
You know, I love the way you said that. Some people are not thinkers at all, or some people are extremely overthinkers. And excuse me as I'm super vulnerable and honest, but a friend of mine once said, we need to take the BS out of Bible study, is what he said. And when he said that, he said because so many people are, they just want to get deeper. That's the one question. When I worked at North Point Community Church in Atlanta with Andy Stanley, the biggest thing rubbed that people that didn't attend my church would say is, oh, you guys, I just want to get deeper than North Point would get. You guys are so shallow. And I would always say, you know what? If you stepped foot and tried to apply the quote unquote shallow thought that we're giving, you're going to drown in that 1 inch of depth because people just they feel better about who they are when they fill their minds with stuff. But when somebody is super smart and then you ask them, hey, well let's just live one of these truths out.
Right.
Living it out is going to take so much more work than memorizing those things.
The thought that wrecked me was learning the Bible, learning the truth of it, and even teaching it was one thing.
Yeah.
But like living it daily is a whole nother level.
I mean,
it keeps you busy.
Love one another, period. Okay, so let me figure that out for in 2016 and see if I can't get that one down, Maybe I can even learn the Greek version of how to say that, but I'm still going to learn how to love one another,
right. So we're getting a lot of social interaction already. Actually, Brian Welch tweeted in.
Brian did.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
What's
up, Brian? How's it going, man? He's our buddy. He's on our first show. And thank you, Brian, for doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
He said, why do you have no hair, Carlos? So you want dreadlocks?
Brian, I would love to be able to even get one dreadlock, but
Can you donate one?
If you could, Brian Headwells, donate a dreadlock to me, that would be great. But right now, if I did try to grow dreadlocks, I would grow dreadlocks only around the side of my head because the Lord has gifted me in growing hair only on the side of my head as opposed to the top of my head. Second of all, Brian, is we have a mutual friend in Jason Rauch, who's a producer in Nashville, Tennessee, and I know he's produced a lot of your music. And so I told him that you were on the show, and he wanted me to tell you, hey, and so now I'm doing it via the internet. So wow, look at that.
You guys actually probably live like 2 blocks away from each other, but you guys are connecting across the country here.
I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. Great. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, man. All right, so the guy said that we're going to hit you with 2 kind of fun things. I don't know what that means. So here's the next one.
Oh, there she is, the letter cottage. High five, fellow moment maker. Have you thrown any confetti this week? All right, so.
I have no idea. I'm lost.
Okay, so let me explain this.
All right.
Great friend of mine. Actually, here's another great version. There, as fabricated as social media could be, there's actually real relationships that can grow out of social media. So Layla and her husband have become good friends of mine over social media, and I wrote a companion book to Moment Maker.
Right. Which we're going to talk about that in a second. 15 ways to be a moment maker in 2015. It's a free ebook. I'll send the link out on my Twitter later. Awesome.
You can find that on my website if you sign up for my mailing list. But one of the ways that I tell people to make sure that they're ready to be a moment maker at any moment's notice is to always carry with them a little pouch of confetti. Okay. Because whenever somebody has something awesome that has happened to them, whenever somebody's like, man, I just had the greatest interview, I want you to reach in your pocket and I want you to pull out that confetti and just go, yeah, and throw it in the air. And there is something about confetti that makes everything a party.
Right.
So I tell everybody to always just go to the party store, get a couple little bags of confetti, and I at least try to throw 1 bag of confetti a week.
That's awesome.
And so
I like it.
it's a fun way to be a moment.
So don't do it as a smart aleck because I'm already thinking of like other things. I'm like, don't do it that way. Do it like legit.
And again,
like,
remember, the confetti in the air is a blast. Confetti on the ground is a little bit difficult to clean up. So make sure it's worth it.
That's true. They need the confetti that just it dissipates. What is
yes,
it?
Yeah, sure. Self-evaporating.
I don't know, man.
Confetti.
Maybe
Somebody make this.
Somebody's writing it down. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this. I'm gonna do it. All right. So let's talk about the book for a second.
Sure.
Okay. I just the title's got me. Got me hooked. I haven't read it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to now.
Don't be sorry.
Because we just met, and now that I know you, I have this rule.
Sure.
I only read books when I met the author.
Well, I love that. I love that. Don't move to Nashville because you'll have to read a book a day.
Yeah, that's not true at all. But honestly, this book looks really interesting. It's called Moment Maker, and it's Carlos's recent book. When did you actually finish?
So that came out April of last year.
Okay.
So it's about a little over a year.
What's interesting about this is you got this kid on the diving board.
Yep. Standing.
He's at a moment in his life, right?
Thanks for figuring out
I figured it out.
What it is. Awesome.
But the subtitle, you can live your life or it'll live you.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. Tell me about that.
So you can live your life or it will live you. Pastor Matt Chandler out of Dallas, Texas, was preaching a sermon once where he actually said that, and I was at dinner at his house right before I released the book, and I was like, FYI, I'm using that as the subtitle of my book because it is such a fine line, and I would say most people err on the side of their life living them. And the next thing you know, you wake up and your life has gone by you, and you're like, wow, like now I really want to live. But if you switch it and you start living your life on purpose, and you start being the commander and chief of your life, at that moment you become a moment maker.
What does that look like for, let's say somebody's 19
Yeah.
years old. They just got out of high school. They're in the first year of college. I mean, what does that look like for this, this individual?
So here's the thing. Adventuring has
They're
become
being told
such a...
what to do, right?
Yeah, being told what to do. Let's even go to 16-year-olds, right? So you're in your own home. You've got a mother and a father. You are still under the command of parental units. How can you still be a moment maker? You know, I dive into here and I talk about 3 kinds of moments. Created, received, and rescued moments. And how Jesus every single day did these 3 things. And because he created, received, and rescued moments, people were so attracted to him. And when we begin to do that, and when we begin to create, receive, and rescue moments, people in turn will become attracted to us, not because we want to, you know, this could have been like Live Your Best Life Now book, which, sure, that's fun, but what point does that have?
Right.
The point at the end is you live your life or it will live you, so people are disturbed and disrupted to see the face of Jesus. At that moment, moment making becomes so much greater because now it becomes about Jesus as opposed to you. So you're 19, you're on your way to college. Oh my gosh, you can spend your entire 4 years studying to get straight A's, which I think is fantastic.
Right.
Or what if you instead spent 80% of your time trying to be a moment maker and make people attracted to someone that reflects Jesus, and maybe you'll get A minuses, which, hey, you know, like, don't want to say education is important. It took me 11 years to finally graduate from college, probably because I was making one too many moments, you know. But I also wrote this because there's a lot of, you know, 30-year-old guys that are like, you know, out there, men that are out there struggling to pay the bills, to, you know, be a good husband, this and that. And they're like, I don't have any time, Carlos, to be a moment maker. No, you don't have to be 19 and free to go travel the globe in order to be a moment maker. You can be a moment maker right where you're at.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
From hearing you speak this morning and kind of getting the gist of this, one of the things that I like about it is you're talking about reactive behavior as well. You're talking about, you know, something crazy is happening, awesome, and it's just capturing it. You know, literally, like catching it and
surrounding
and then
it,
sharing it, and that's a really cool idea. I think that maybe a lot of it has to do with just living with your eyes wide open, right? It's
eyes
like
wide open.
around.
I talk about gazing at God while glancing at life. And when we, you know, we as humans have a tendency to flip that upside down and to gaze at life and glance at God. But when you flip it and you're gazing at God and your eyes are up, I mean, wow, the potential for moments all around us. You know, a couple months ago, I was on a flight. A lot of moments happen to me on airplanes because I happen to be on them a lot. But
and you're stuck there.
I'm stuck there, yeah. And I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to compliment the next 20 people that walk by me. Why not? I'm just going to make a moment.
Why not, right? You always say that. You always say that.
I said it today.
Yeah, why
I said
not?
it today in my sermon.
I mean, what a great way to live. Why not, right? So I did. First guy that comes walking in is like 6'5", big old guy, and I'm like, oh God, why did I say I would do this? It's like, hey man, I like that shirt. And I just remember the death stare he gave me. And I was like, okay, this isn't working. Next guy comes in, maybe 3 inches taller, right? Like again, and it's like the Marine Corps came walking in, and I'm like, these guys don't want a compliment. So I kept throwing them, just kept getting rejected.
For a guy, it's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
a guy
rejected.
Compliment other guy.
Finally, I'm thinking, okay, God, I'm going to be done. No, I said 20. I'm going to do 20. The sweetest old black woman comes walking onto the plane, and she comes walking by me, and she just had these pearls around her neck, and I just stopped her and I said, ma'am, those are the most beautiful pearls I've seen all day long. And I haven't seen a bunch of pearls, but those are gorgeous. This woman stops, like grabs my shirt, like I'm almost like this, lifts me up with tears in her eyes and says, thank you so much. My husband gave me these, and nobody's talked about my pearls. I just remember, that's why. Why not?
You know what that reminds me of? Honestly, it reminds me of the parable of the seeds.
Yeah.
Two of them didn't really go anywhere.
You said a magic word, though. I did a sermon, or part of a sermon a few weeks ago, that has changed my life.
Yeah.
And I titled it, Why Not? Why not? And I gave the rules for why not.
Yeah.
And then this morning I said that. I said, you know, the Bible says don't be drunk with wine, but be drunk with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
What if we came into church, I told them this morning, and as we walked down the row, we stopped people. So it's like we were on the same wavelength today.
We were, man.
And just stop and say, hey, you know what? Nice shirt.
Yeah.
Or stop saying, anything I can pray with you about?
Absolutely.
Hey, good to see you here today.
Right.
I said, what if we just look like a bunch of drunk people in the spirit that
Yes.
came into church every Sunday? We'd have the biggest church in the United States.
Absolutely.
It'd be huge.
Oh, it's so
And,
good.
I'm with you, though. My two favorite places to be is on an airplane or at getting my hair cut because they can't go anywhere.
That's right.
And
So
talk to them.
Talk about moments. One of the interesting moments is you were invited to the White House.
I was.
Wow.
How the heck did that happen?
I was. That's a couple moments wrapped up in one, if you don't mind me sharing.
No, not at all.
So I get, I have this social media following. I have this blog that I would blog every day for years. And so I had a bunch of publishers coming to me asking me to write books. And I never knew what the book was. So finally I kind of give in / really feel like this is the book I'm supposed to write. But take heed, I'm still a full-time worship guy. Like traveling with my band, touring, went out with John Mark McMillan, went out with Jeremy Camp, Newsboys. Like I'm out trying to make it in that world.
Sure.
And I remember that it was right before this came out, maybe just a couple weeks, maybe even a week after. I can't really remember. It's a big blur. But I felt like God kept pressuring me, saying, I want you to preach the word. I want you to preach the word. And I kept saying, God, I'm a worship leader. God, I'm a musician. I don't preach. I just talk for 30 seconds between songs. I don't talk for 30 minutes. And I kept having this battle with him for months. And I remember looking across from my wife at the dinner table and her going, it's time. It's time. The Lord's been yelling at you, and it's time to release the music. So I walked to my laptop. I canceled all my worship leading gigs. And I remember saying, okay, God, I'm going to wait for a couple days to see if someone asks me to speak. And I'd asked everyone that I canceled a worship leading gig if I could speak. Crickets. Nothing. And I'm like, see, God, exactly what I said was going to happen. Nobody's calling. My family's going to go hungry, and you made me stop doing this.
Right. 3
days after, I get an email in my inbox. And the subtitle says, the White House would like to invite you to, and I was like, oh, it's spam. So I hit delete.
Oh, no.
So I hit delete, and I'm really thinking about it. Well, my publicist calls me, not too much, I don't know, maybe an hour later.
Right.
Why did you delete the email? They know
From the White
you
House.
deleted the email.
Oh, no.
man.
Wait a second, what email? From the White House.
Oh, no.
Two problems. A, I can't believe I deleted it. B, how do they know that I
Right.
deleted the email? So like,
That's a whole other
that's a whole
conversation.
other conversation, right? Okay, we can talk about that later. So I go undeleted. I look and it said, President Obama would like to invite you to give a devotional and lead worship at the White House for the Easter prayer breakfast and to have breakfast with him.
That's nuts, man.
1 week later, and I felt like God said, see, when you finally gave it to me, let me show you what I can do.
Wow.
And now, as soon as I gave it up, God's like, let me put you in front of kings and queens at the table, being able to minister to the most powerful human being on the planet. I got up there, and in the White House, I changed my song at the last second and started singing, what can wash away my sins?
Wow.
Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And to hear everyone in the East Room of the White House start to sing this out, and it echoing through the halls of the White House, I felt like the Lord was like, when you give it to me, I'm going to do so much greater things
that's a scary thing to
than
do.
ever. And it was
really is.
mortifying for me. I was so scared. And from that point,
and it's not like a pretend scare. It's like a legit.
It was legit. Like I'm going to work at Home Depot. Like I don't know what I'm going to
You
do.
see his humility.
Right.
He deleted it.
Yeah.
The White House, that's not me. That's not for me.
That's not for me. Like, is Chris Tomlin
that is
sick?
funny.
Did Hillsong
funny.
break their ankle? Like, why did they pick me?
I was listening to a missionary speak one time, and he talked about waiting on God.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, I'm waiting on God, I'm waiting on God. But he talks about how waiting on God is really, it's like an expectant waiting. It's like, I'm waiting for God to bring something. It's like looking toward heaven, saying, I really believe it's going to happen. And we don't, we don't think to do that.
No.
You know, and we should. I mean, we
Wait
should
with
constantly,
expectation.
Yeah, just be like, man, God is going to come through.
Well, you know what? I wrote a book, and it's called Tribal Influence. But and you asked me to write the book. I didn't even want to write it, but I wrote it. And I talked about how the different tribes, even in Christianity, and this guy's part of my tribe. And he's part of my tribe.
Yeah,
I felt it as
absolutely.
soon as I met him.
Yeah.
But you know, I got to ask a couple questions here. And I know there's probably some people we want to be sure to get their questions.
Definitely.
But I read on one of your bios that you're called to disturb and disrupt the church. Now, I don't know what that means, but I like it.
Yeah.
I like it because I think it needs to be disrupted and disturbed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I don't know, Carlos, maybe this is two different questions, but you're called to disrupt and disturb the church. But one of my biggest fears is, how are we going to enjoy heaven if we're all fighting each other down here on earth?
Right.
Absolutely.
It seems like there's a lot of fighting in the church.
There's a lot of fighting.
I've been tempted to write a book called Mean Christians, but you know.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I'm not a millennial by any means, a bit older, but I keep a good eye on the millennial, the youngsters, you know, and that's why a lot of them aren't going to church now.
Yeah.
It's because they see the fighting,
They
they
see
see
the
the disunity, and it's almost like you want to say to some of the older guys, like, hey, come on, guys, like, let's stop.
Yeah.
Let's stop fighting and let's show a better example.
The
Yeah.
Carlos is called disturb and disrupt. And I
Sure.
really want to hear the
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
to
yeah.
that. 'Cause
Well, there's
You know,
a positive way to do it, and
I
that's
know
what
it.
you're
I want to
doing.
hear that.
Well, and so, to disturb and disrupt, again, for the sake of seeing Christ's face fresh, I believe that there's a lot of callous Christians out there, that the only way you can shake them is to really disturb and disrupt what they see on a weekly and a daily basis. And so I feel like the ethos God has placed inside of me, for some reason, and I don't believe everybody has this, okay? And I'm not saying that I'm special with a gift or not. I'm just saying personality-wise. Some people can disturb and disrupt other people, and the people they're disturbing and disrupting still feel like they're best friends with them. And so when I was at North Point, and this is where this came from, I remember Andy Stanley, when I was about to leave and go sign my record deal and go to, I remember asking him about leading worship, and he goes, Carlos, you're not a great singer. I remember him looking at me and saying it, and I was like, I'm like, I just signed a record deal. I'm about to have to go on tour. He's like, let me tell you why you're a good worship leader. Because when you get on stage, everybody feels like they're your best friend. God has given you something to where when you stand there, you are going to be able to disturb and disrupt and say things to where people feel safe. And when you make people feel safe, then you can start coming in and disturbing and disrupting. What I feel like God has gifted me in doing is really being a bridge builder as opposed to a bridge destroyer. I think in my 20s, I was trying to be like a shock jock Christian, like I'm going to be whatever, that it is what it is. But if I can talk to the 20-year-old disturb and disrupt Carlos versus the 40-year-old disturb and disrupt Carlos now, and just look at him and say, you know what, like shocking doesn't equal disturbing. And I feel like what happens, the question you're asking is, Christians feel like they've got to stand and be shocking and like, I'm going to like fight for this and this is disturbing and disrupting. That's not disturbing and disrupting for the sake of Jesus.
I know something about your personal life without even knowing anything about your personal life.
Right.
And what it is I know you're getting filled up.
Yeah.
And then you're just shining.
And it's going to it's going to come out.
I was listening
just
last night. I was driving from Bakersfield to Ventura and had a little gig there, and I was listening to Johnny Cash talk in an interview. Yeah. And Johnny Cash, he had his issues.
Yeah.
But he saw himself as a communicator of God's love in a way. And it was really interesting. But he said, he basically said what a lot of pastors I've heard say. He said the most important thing is that he gets away and gets filled up. And the interviewer said, how do you get filled up? Who fills you up? Thinking, a wife or
Sure.
I think he was right next to his wife, June, at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, God.
Yeah.
He just blurted it out.
Wow.
And he communicated through music.
Yep. Absolutely.
And he communicated through talking a little bit, but mainly music. But ultimately, that's what we are all called to do, communicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes for you, it's through music.
Yep.
I don't have any musical talent. I'm just doing the best I can by just
communicating
just showing up. You speak. Not everyone has these talents, but everyone has relationships.
Absolutely.
Everyone has an opportunity to really, like you said.
And everyone has an opportunity to disturb and disrupt the way God has wired them to do it. It's going to look different for you. Yeah. It's going to look different for you, for me. But what I've found is the most disturbing and disrupting thing, so people see the face of Jesus fresh, is authenticity.
Right.
And people are not used to that. And so when I stand on stage and I tell the crowd that I've suffered with anxiety and depression for 15 years of my life, I can literally see it in the pupils dilating out there. People kind of sitting back going like, oh my gosh, I struggle with that too.
That's crazy, because that's the point he made that went huge with us.
Oh yeah, I struggle with that too. And they're whispering because it's a secret. It's a dirty little secret.
Well, and they think they're on an island.
And they think they're alone on the island. And then when the guy on stage with the Bible declares, you know what, I'm broken too. And Paul says in Scripture that he had a thorn in his flesh, and that thorn never left him, but he ministered in spite of the thorn.
Right.
Well, that's my thorn, and this may never leave. And it's been with me for 15 years. I pray that God takes it from me, but I'll tell you right now, sitting on the stage, it hasn't left me yet, but I will still declare the gospel of Jesus Christ true through
I heard that 5 or 10 times after he left the pulpit in our Bakersfield campus.
Yeah.
Carlos has this problem too.
Yeah.
And you did free some people.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Good.
really, really neat.
Yeah.
Everyone has issues.
Yeah, and
Flat
that
out.
is disturbing and disrupting because most Christians want to say they want to pray it away,
Right.
and when I said no, I take Paxil and it's 10 milligrams, it's like, oh my gosh.
They even got that down.
Yeah.
But see, Carlos, when I was younger, I went to church.
Yeah.
And I would see, and again, this is not anything against people that dress this way, but from my young viewpoint, I would walk in and see a preacher. He had a suit on and glasses and stuff, and nothing wrong with that. Because
Yeah.
I got glasses, and I have one Marion Barry suit myself.
Right.
But I would walk in, and I would hear some of these guys, and I'd go, you know, I kind of want to be a Christian, but I can't relate to that because you're making me feel that you don't like sin. I like sin.
Yeah.
And I can't relate to you. I mean, was your first word when you were 3 Bible? You know, I can't relate. But you come in and see a guy like you, or even me or Josh, you go, I can relate to these guys. They have
Absolutely.
problems too.
Yeah.
And I think that is so neat. But
Absolutely.
do we have anybody at all coming in?
Yeah, we have
Josh?
another Twitter question that came in. Guys are going to pop it up. They're springing them on us today. So what are a few things we can do to make our churches more inviting to non-believers?
Yeah, it's a
more
great-
inviting. How do we do that?
I mean, you know, I get to travel full time, so I get to see a lot of churches do this in different ways. So first and foremost, I'd say you want to make sure that your church is being the church it needs to be in its community. There's nothing worse than seeing a church trying to act like church A 800 miles away, and they're thinking, well, it's working there.
Right.
It needs to work here. No, you have to be an authentic version of who the people are that are coming.
Yeah.
But more than anything, and this is going to sound so simple and probably a little silly, but if we smiled more, I'm not even kidding you. I tell worship leaders all the time when I travel and do worship leader training and things like this, will you remember that the joy of the Lord is your strength? And smile. And when you smile from stage, it changes everything in the room. And they're like, oh, well, no, I'm happy. I'm like, well, remind your face that you're happy, you know? And so like smiling and greeting, what I try to do when I go visit churches is, I don't care if it's the first time I've ever been there, I walk up and down the aisle before I preach. And I say, man, it's great to see you.
That is so neat.
And people just automatically assume I work there. They're like, oh, this guy must be a new guy that works there.
They see you come
and
up.
then they see me go up and they're like, that's the guy. That's the guy that.
Darren Laws at
one
our
touch.
church does that.
Yeah.
There's a guy at our church that
One touch.
he's just there and he's just smiling and just loving on people all the time.
I think that's an easy way for churches
so
to do
awesome.
that. Smile, walk up and down. And I know. And here's another thing. I can go on forever about this, but let's burn down the green rooms in a lot of our churches, because what ends up happening is especially because I'm in the band culture. I was a worship leader for a long time. We go and we hibernate and we have our little music band thing. And finally, I'm like, no, make the lobby be the new green room.
Right.
Go out there, spend time with the people, and get away and get quiet before you have to get up there.
Would you call yourself a naturally social person?
Well, actually, yesterday, anyone that was watching on Periscope, I talked about this when I was laying out in Ventura Beach.
Okay.
I pulled out Periscope and I said, let's talk about being an introvert versus an extrovert. Here's the crazy thing, is days like today I love, but I am exhausted at the end of today.
Sure, yeah.
I know friends of mine that are preachers that are filled with like life at the end of these days. When I'm alone for the day like I was yesterday, okay, I'm filled. And I suddenly am like, so I don't necessarily, I may be like, woo, fun guy on stage, but it actually is work for me to go out and touch. And so if there's pastors that, well, Andy Stanley's a great example, and I only bring him up a lot because he was my boss for 3 years.
Sure.
But he is not a natural extrovert. And so like he's not super comfortable out there in the lobby, this and that, but he knows that it really elevates the touch point with the church, and it elevates the morale, and people just feel like, wow, like I got to touch him, and I got to,
I've
to get
noticed
out
the
there.
most effective communicators, Andy's a very effective communicator. I'm sure he's like this. It's not like they're just a natural walk into a room guy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're the guys that are like, okay, God, you called me to do this. It's a sacrifice in a way,
really is.
right? Like putting yourself out there.
It is.
It's
It
always
is.
a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And
But I'm the same way as Carlos, though.
Uh-huh.
And, I love people.
Yeah.
But now some of my pastor friends, like, we'll go out in the mall, and they will talk for an hour. I'm already in the car halfway home. But I told our congregation this again today. Yeah. I've adopted something. I say, if I go by and do this, that means I love you to death, but I ain't got time to talk to you. That's what so I go around and pat a lot of people like that. But
you know what? People they respect the real
they
side
do.
to it.
No,
that's just not me.
I'm glad that you're saying this because there's a lot of people that maybe they feel like they're just not, an extrovert. They're not a social person.
They're praying that God changes
them.
They
weren't the popular kid in school, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they think that they can't have an effect on someone else, but they really can.
They can.
They can be a huge witness.
I'm not a social person. I love people to death.
Yeah.
But I want to say real quick, I'm smiling.
That's
we got the Trip House full to some of our Sunday night Bible study, and I just want to say thank you. To the Trips and the people in Bakersfield. They get their Sunday night Bible studies watching.
Oh, they're watching. What's
they
up,
love
Bakersfield?
you. They love you in
Yes.
Bakersfield.
Hey, I love you, Bakersfield.
That's awesome. That's way awesome. Okay, so we got another Twitter question.
Hold on. Let me say one more thing about Bakersfield.
Okay.
I got to Bakersfield, and in Nashville right now, Bakersfield is hot.
Really?
It's like the thing because. Now, obviously, you know about Bakersfield Country Sound.
Really hot right now.
Oh, really hot. But I'm talking about
Merle Haggard.
Yeah, Merle. So like the Bakersfield Sound is like in Nashville. Every country musician and writer is trying to write like Merle, and so when I told my friends in Nashville that I was going to Bakersfield, their eyes lit up. You're really going to Bakersfield?
That is great.
And so I got to Bakersfield, and I was telling people at your church about that, and they're like, "Why would people want?" And I was like, "No, like right now, you're it.
Right.
Oh, that is so funny. I've never heard that before. That is funny.
There's signs on Highway 40 in Nashville, Tennessee, saying go to the Country Museum Hall of Fame and visit the Bakersfield Sound exhibit.
Oh, that is great.
You guys are hot.
That
awesome.
is great. We're hot. We're hot. We know it.
Yeah.
You guys have other questions?
Let's go, guys. Let's just shoot up another Twitter question here.
All right, let's see here.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
5.
Because if you don't, I have questions.
Yeah, I think they're just.
Okay, guess we don't have it.
Okay, cool.
Let's
Okay,
move on.
go ahead. I got some questions. I want to bring it back around the church here.
Well, I do too, but you go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I want to ask you, and I know we're kind of doing this thing where we want a lot of leaders watching. And so, Carlos, what are 3 of the biggest pieces of advice that you would give young leaders today?
Yeah. First and foremost is read the Word. And for me, for the longest time, I thought if I could read the Bible every once in a while and just continue to love Jesus. But you can tell as a leader when somebody is soaking in the Word of God and when somebody is not. It's just evident. And so I tell young leaders all the time, before you buy the next moment maker, before you buy the next 10 irrefutable laws of leadership, before you try to to figure out your next leadership move, the greatest leadership move you can make is to be in the Word of God. And this is, again, for men and women, but I will definitely even say for men don't read the Bible. They just don't read it's evident by Bible study sales in America. They're all Beth Moore Bible studies. They're all these amazing Bible studies. I do my wife's Beth Moore Bible studies because it's the deepest, it's just amazing. And so when you're in the Word, you become a better leader. So that's A. B would be to be authentic. To be the leader that God has called you to be, not to be the leader that somebody else. Now, not saying that you can't find somebody and look up to them and admire them. I think that's great. But when I start hearing worship leaders praying the same prayer that Joel Houston prayed on the latest Hillsong DVD, at that moment I realized that there's a difference. Okay.
Right.
And so be the version that God has called you to be. If you're kind of like the emo worship guy, okay, that's okay.
Right.
Only maybe half smile then, but be the version that God has called you to be.
Do you think authentic is unique in this world?
Yeah. I think so.
I think so. Yeah. It's hard to find.
Here's the thing. I tell people all the time, like, yeah, I've got a lot of tattoos, but the new tattoos are no tattoos. So like when I see somebody without tattoos, I'm like, dude, that's kind of cool.
Right.
You know, I kind of look at that, right? That's like unique.
Sure.
And then I say last one, it's that leaders need to continue to create. The second that leaders stop creating, I'm not saying you have to like be a painter. I'm not saying, but you have to be creating things. When you're creating things, God is the ultimate creator, right? And so He pours that creativity into us.
In the beginning,
God created the heavens and the earth. So if he's pouring that creativity into us, yet we're not creating in turn, then I don't think we're being fully used like we need to be. So, if whatever that creativity looks like in you, I used to run this thing called creative coaching, where I would have senior pastors and worship leaders and creative arts pastors come through this program that I'd created, and I would make each of them find a creative avenue that they were not skilled in and do it for 6 weeks. So, like if it was a worship leader, I'd make him learn culinary arts, and I'd make everybody do these things that really got them out of their comfort zones, because it got them into creating and feeling like they were creating something new, So I'd say those 3 things are probably.
I like that, because number 2, and I think all young men do this. Yeah. When I first started the ministry, 1 week I'd be Chuck Smith, 1 week Jack Hafer. Those were the hot names then.
Yeah.
And the first one you said too, I talk to people all the time. I'll be in the gym and I'll go, "You're off your meds. You're off your meds. I see the way you're acting today."
Yeah.
I said, we're all chronically ill with sin, and you're not on your meds.
That's right.
You got to stay on your meds, or you
right.
go back to who you were before. He's preaching my sermon today.
Yeah, it's
good. Anyway, I know we get some more people.
It's good.
Tuning in here.
Love it.
Let's go back to that last question, guys, if you can.
Flip the one on and off.
It's I think there's a delay.
Here it is.
There we go.
Don't get drunk on wine, get drunk on why. Oh, she's just kind of giving you
that's
props
good.
for that. I like that.
It's just
Not drunk
That's
on wine,
good.
get drunk on why.
It's good.
I like that.
We're gonna take that. I think you should say that next Sunday.
Yep, I've got
Absolutely.
it. I've got that and the confetti. I've got both
There
of them
you
down.
go, there
I'm gonna
you
be
go.
throwing confetti next
Throw
Sunday. Is what I'm
confetti.
gonna be
Throw
doing.
confetti on Sunday.
So so we have a lot of things we can talk about. I was reading a little bit of your blog, and you're a dad, obviously. We talked about that a little bit. You have 2 girls and a boy, right?
Yep.
And one of your blog posts that caught my attention was parenting adventure into your kids.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah. Our kids are growing up with these things, right? So the most adventurous things that so many kids do now is, when I was a kid, I had to go outside and build forts. Okay. I went outside, we climbed trees, kids don't have to do that anymore in order to be entertained, right? They've got it all right here. So like, what can you do to make sure, what can we do as parents to make sure that we're parenting adventure into our kids?
I don't think parents see this as a responsibility.
I don't think so either. I think parents want to make sure that their children go from 0 to 18 without too many bumps and bruises, and then kind of get them out. No, like I want to make sure when my kids get out that they are adventurers and that they are looking for adventure. Now, I use this every day, right? So it's not like this is a bad thing, but how can we use these things to parent adventure in our kids?
It's a tool.
It is a tool. It is a tool. And adventure in your kids, one of the things that I said in that blog post, for all you parents watching right now, every kid has a different version of adventure. So we need to make sure that we're not pushing one version of adventure on each kid. Losiah, my youngest, for him, he didn't want to jump off of whatever cliffs and rocks that we were jumping off this. I'm a cliff jumper. Like when I'm like, if I see a cliff, people are jumping off, I was like, I'm on my way. That's my thing. Now for my 13-year-old daughter, for her, she will go up to the 50-foot cliff with her father and jump off. I know that is already a adventure skill set inside of her. Right. Therefore, that's not going to be what I'm going to try to push her into. Losiah, on the other hand, won't jump off a 4-foot curb. And so for me this summer, the sense of adventure for him, I made him jump off that thing. Next thing you know, Heather and I talked about this the other day. We were watching him develop his sense of adventure all summer long. And we felt like, man, we've done good as parents parenting adventure. What can we do now for the typical adventure in our family, right? So so what can we do to develop her sense of adventure?
Sure.
Well, her sense of adventure is going to be risk-taking in relationship. So now, how can we have her be an adventurous relationship person and adventurous in her relationships with their friends?
So the whole family teams up.
We team up and we look we look at our kids and say, okay, adventure for you, adventure for you, adventure for you, and it doesn't look the same, which is the same with all aspects
Proverbs
of parenting.
22:6. Train up a child in the way they ought to go with a proper bent in mind. That's what it says.
That's good.
And so he's on it.
When I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was get lost, so he let me do it a few
I
times.
did. I did let it get lost.
Yeah.
Good times.
Oh man.
You're part of Catalyst, okay? I'm just curious. What's it like being around all these church leaders all the time?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the vibe? First of all, what is your role there?
So I've since I left North Point in 2009-ish, 10-ish, I've been on the creative team for Catalyst. So helping create their events.
And for those of you that don't know, Catalyst is
It's a
huge
leadership, yeah.
leadership conference in the
Leadership conference.
church
and,
and business world, right?
Yeah. So kind of both. And so, I've kind of done lots for Catalyst. I've just kind of been in the family, the Catalyst family. So for everything from planning out the events to leading worship to speaking to whatever they need me to do there. And so, for me, the greatest thing that's come out of Catalyst is being around these leaders that, for most people, get to see them from afar, and then I get to see them, up close. Now, a dangerous place to see a leader like that is in a green room, because what ends up happening inevitably is, as humans, as much as we try to pray it away, right? No matter what, when you get into a room with other leaders, there's a little bit of, there's a little bit of jockeying going on and a little bit this and that. My favorite thing was to see the leader that I thought was going to do that, do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Go sit in a corner and find somebody and just lock eyes with them.
That's cool.
There's nothing worse than meeting a leader for the first time and them looking straight through you, right? There's no worse feeling on the planet. And so for me, one of the greatest things is finding leaders that are so humble. And I'll go into, I'd say most of them obviously are, but there's just something really cool about that. And then seeing the humanity in them, when they go from being an author or a preacher to just a person, a dude, in the back. So it's been really fun to kind of hang out and really develop some relationships.
What is a common denominator that you see in most leaders?
Yeah, I'd say the greatest common denominator that I've seen in the leaders that I've run across, upper echelon leaders, Christian or not, is their humility. And when a leader is quick to lift somebody up higher than themselves, those are the ones. I don't necessarily say I can correlate that to like an event to an event, but when I see them behind the scenes that way, those are the ones that have the greatest influence, and those are the ones that are really reaching their potential. I never want a leader to believe that physical numbers are the things that are going to make them a greater leader and that it's going to make them more valuable in the kingdom. I remember hearing Billy Graham's story about like his when he was in Sunday school, the lady that was selling shoes is the one that led him to Jesus or something, and she's not leading this mega church, right? And so we've got to be faithful in the small things, and in those things. And so
this webcast is about leadership. And we've got leaders, we're talking to leaders, but really we're talking to everyone because everyone has a responsibility to lead, right? In the end, and I think that you hit it on the head is humility. Humility to me is it's like a gate. That you either open, or if you open it, you're being humble and letting people in, and you're letting yourself out into the world. And I think that that's huge. I think
I just talked about that today in my sermon too. I said, you know what? There's two things in the Bible that gives God goosebumps. I challenged the people and I said, are there times when you get goosebumps, you get teary-eyed, you get moved emotionally? Like mine's Olympics. When these guys stand on the stand and get their medals, I go, whoa! I start crying and get all emotional. But in the Bible, there's two things in Scripture that says that it gives God goosebumps, and one is walking by faith, the other one is humility. Because you think of the story of King Ahab, he was a horrible guy, and Elijah came and said, man, we're going to do you in. God's, he's through. Your family's going to be fed to the dogs, some of them, all this. And when he humbled himself, God said, look at him. I've changed my mind. It moved God's heart. And so humility even moves God's heart. You see, everything he's bringing up is my sermon this morning. So we're on the same mind wavelength here, I know.
We don't normally have homework, but I think a good homework assignment for everyone is just to really look into what humility means for you.
To live it. That's a whole sermon. God's goosebumps. That's freaking rad. I love that. It's so cool. And when you were saying that, just yesterday when we left our kids with a babysitter, my wife and I flew out. Their babysitter said, "Hey, on the way to the airport, what's something that gives you insta joy?" She called it insta joy, and it's those things that when they happen, they just produce goosebumps, or they produce these things. And it's funny, when we were flying into LA, there's something about, for me at least, getting off the airplane at LAX and seeing this tribe of nations just all up and down the terminal, that gives me that insta joy. And whatever it is that feeling is, we multiply that times 1,000,000 and know that that's how God feels when he sees
God
the
can
humility.
Be moved. He can
be moved. And
he says, I'm close to the brokenhearted. We finally get it.
Right.
But I've got to ask Carlos this, because I know we're getting close on time. But what is Carlos Whittaker's, some of his goals, or one or two, in the next 10 or 20 years?
Yeah, wow. Thanks for asking that, because, the older I get, the less people ask me that question. I think for sure, I want to, I'll just get super specific here. I want to make sure that, as an extension of kind of my ethos that landed inside of this book, that people are living adventurous lives for the sake of the kingdom. Yeah. And when I say it breaks my heart to see people in their 50s and in their 60s just waiting to die, just kind of waiting, and no, like to help people live an adventurous life. I'm starting this thing called Adventure Plan, where I'm helping people plan adventurous lives. People have life plans all the time. Like I've got a lot of friends that I did a life plan, and I think, well, that's cool, but like, how about an adventure plan? And so I started a process, and I started a system, and I wrote it all out. And so, like, I'm developing this system where I really help people do that. And I think that's going to be kind of part of my goal setting, is like to develop, my wife and I together, coming in and helping families and people do that. Second of all, another goal is to really take my ministry from right now, it's pretty defined as Carlos, his ministry, and I'd love to see my ministry grow. I'm kind of seeing it right here, right? Like grow and see my family and my kids, and suddenly it's not Carlos's ministry, it's the Whittakers' ministry, and it is, man, I'll start crying right now just imagining what that would look like. And so, like, I'm really pouring into my kids, just trying to find their niches and their sticks, kind of what it is that they're going to do. So that would be something else that I'd love to do. And I'd love to just continue to grow in my preaching of the word. And I've got a bunch more books that I'm writing. My book deadline for my next book is in 4 weeks. So everyone can pray for me that I get that done. But the next book is, I think this book was awesome.
Can you give us any hint of what it's about?
I can give you a hint. I can give you a hint. I can give you a hint. It's basically about, it's almost hard to say it without saying the title, but my publisher will let me say the title. But I've gotten to a place where I can talk. We all kind of have those core sins, right? They're just the things that we can't seem to defeat. And what I've looked at as I've studied why, especially, this is really an inspection into my life. Why is it that Carlos, his entire life, has taken blessings that God's given him and smeared dookie all over it, right? Every time I get a blessing from God, I feel like I'm not worth it, so I mess it up. Why is that? And what I've realized is I've always dealt with the symptoms. I've always dealt with, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to stop doing this, but I never got past the symptoms to the root. And this book is going to help people get to the root. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. This guy's so contagious. I keep listening to him, and I keep thinking, I'm afraid of sharks. Am I going to have to go out and start surfing at 64? Maybe I'm going to have to strike up surfing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'll go out and start surfing. I already have the wetsuit, so let's do it.
Let's go.
And
we have one more question on here. Are you good with that? We're pretty much getting close to the time, but we don't have rules, which is amazing. When I can't seem, this is from Aaron Landis, when I can't seem to connect with others, be my authentic self, where do I go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question, Aaron. For me, when I'm having a really hard time connecting with others and being authentic, it's because I haven't yet become authentic with myself. Right. And for me, and that's honestly a battle that I battle every day. That's not something that we can just figure out, and once you're real with yourself, you're always going to be real with others.
Right.
No, I think being real with yourself is a daily thing that you have to come to every single day. Okay, today, Lord, you have me in this space. You have me with this ethos and with these feelings. Like, so I may not be able to connect with people the same way I did yesterday. Right. It's got to shift and it's got to move. And as our heartbeat moves and our souls move and God continues to develop us, we're going to look different and have to connect with people differently than we did before. If I would have just stayed kind of like shock jock Christian 20-year-old version of Carlos, right, Christian leader that I was, like the version that I am now would, it's nauseating to imagine myself, right, yet when I was 20, that's the way that God had wired me to be. And so we're going to shift. We're going to change, and it's okay to shift, and it's okay to, it's okay to change.
It's such simple advice again, but just true to yourself. And
Yeah.
that is work.
Yeah.
It really is. It is a choice.
The truest thing some of us can do, the truest thing some of us can do is, and it's the hardest thing most of us can do, is to tell somebody, you know what, not today. Like, no. Like, just no. I mean, that's just a hard thing to say, but sometimes we have to say that. And we have to take time.
Well, that goes along with life is made of moments.
Yeah. What are you doing to make the most of them?
Not that one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Life. You can live your life, or it'll live you.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Because if you're not intentional, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The world is just gonna
advertise the book again too, because I'm going to go out too, and I should have had Carlos's book by now. I'm going to read it, and the next one I'll be waiting for.
Awesome.
And
me too.
So
there's a boy on the front,
Moment maker,
getting ready to
little
do
redhead
something
boy.
crazy called a moment maker with Carlos. Carlos, thank you, man, so much
boys,
for
great.
being
Just
patient,
great.
hanging out all day.
It's been a blast.
And waiting for us.
I love it. I've really loved to come to love this Valley Bible family, and I really feel like it, and you know, it's just been a blessing to hang out with you.
I need to do a quick announcement real quick, and then we're done. We have our next web show on, oh my gosh, I can't remember the date right now. Is it October? What is it, guys? Do you guys know?
It's Michael Franzese, I know.
Michael
Franzese.
The Mafia guy.
The Mafia guy's here.
Has he spoken at the church?
He's spoken at the church there, and he's speaking at the church here.
Oh, okay, cool.
And they loved him. You and him, you stole the show, you two guys
Awesome.
did.
Maybe I'll go on tour with him.
He'll be here, I believe it's in October sometime.
Oh, 11th. Here we go.
October 11th.
iCalendar.
There you go. There it is.
So
awesome.
October 11th, Michael Franzese will be on live with him. We're so excited about what you're doing right now.
Thanks, man.
And where you're going.
I'm having a blast.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's legit, man. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Thanks.
Gained a new friend.
Carlos.
Yes.
Awesome.
Love him. Love him.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
everybody for listening tonight and watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
God bless. Yeah.
We'll see you later, and catch Carlos online. All right?
That's right.